Hey, this is Nick from Remedy667.com, the best place on the internet for horror-themed typefaces. Today we are checking out some more of a mid-century type of thing, a little less horror font, but still something about the hand lettering, the like drippy, inky pen style, definitely, even though it says like Elizabeth Taylor as part of our, our sample, this is still definitely, you could use this for like a ghost story or something. So it still has that horror font feel. You can also see in the picture here, the close-up, our letters are also pulling from that half toning from our sample, which actually came from a book. Can't remember exactly which book at the moment, but hey, let's get into it. All right, so we've got a lot of letters here. We might even have a full alphabet. I mean, I got a Z, I got a V, got a Y, and we may not have to do anything but move stuff around. But if you'll notice, there's all sorts of different A's. Like, this is very obviously hand lettered. Like, there's no way this could possibly be a font unless you set up a bunch of very specific ligatures. Not just like the ZA, but this PA. Like this A might work next to a P or a T. I digress. And you can tell, another thing that I like about fonts like this is the capitals are just larger than the lowercase, which is always kind of fun. It makes things a little bit easier as far as like what to add. All right, we are going to, actually, let's wait till we get to an E before. So we've gotten to the E, and we are going to make our guides. Based on the E, and I want it right around there. Something got all screwy with my guides. I gotta stop updating Illustrator. And I'm gonna put those guides on a new layer because I don't like to lock my guides, but I do like to keep them apparently. I do like to keep them in a group together. That's what I don't like about this version of Illustrator. I'd rather put them on a new layer and lock them that way than using Command-Shift-I. I don't know why, because when I go to grab a guide and it's locked, it just irritates me for some reason. I think it used to be like when I was starting out in graphic design, probably, I imagine on multiple occasions, would probably go to grab a guide and wouldn't be able to grab it. But then you'd accidentally be pulling guides onto your artboard. Very much frustration. So it looks like F is going to be the first one that we're going to run into that we don't have a character for, same as G. I might leave this H as a ligature also. I kind of like this ligature. I'm going to push that to the side and go in and just create a little bit of jaggedness for my H. That little bit of jaggedness right there is a little too much. Just smooth. Perfect. Can't even tell. And we will take care of this little unevenness there. But leave it for the ligature. When I do go to make the G, I definitely have another C in Carson. I can see. And we have eyes. I only have eyes for, you know. Sorry. I almost took that I from up there, but I could obviously make that into a ligature with that L. Look at that, 2 J's. Holy moly, it's my lucky day. Like I said, I had an L with the LI and that ligature, which isn't necessarily a ligature, but like look at how it's stacked there in Elizabeth. Like it's a beautiful thing. Now let's just pull a bunch down here. That way we don't have to keep zooming in and zooming out. M, N, O. We got a P up here. Notice I duplicated that because I want this PA. This R is nuts. This R looks a little more usable, for lack of a better word. V, we got no W. Just kidding. Look at that. Holy crap. No X. And that's fine. So let's look at what we have and then what we're going to need. We're going to need an F. We're going to need a G. We're going to need a Q. And an X. So not too much, not too bad here. I think I might use that for in my G. And all right, let's start putting these together. So to help with our F, I definitely want this to have a choppiness. Now, you know, you can also do this, like I could have used the base of the H, but I felt like it would have been pretty easy to draw. I'm also going to add a little bit more edge to that part of the F, I think, but I need it standing up straight, and for that I am going to borrow from the H just a tiny bit right there and pull it that way. And this side's gonna go in. Connect, you fool. There we go. Group those. To make our G, first of all, I'm gonna cut this C out of the A. And we're going to just round that off right there. Whoops. Only wanted to delete that. Rotate this. And then literally in like that. And that'll show us kind of where we want to cut it. Much better. Group that G. It's going to go a little over the baseline and the cap. I feel like this H needs to get a little bigger just for that drop on the left. All right. Now we're just going to get our heights correct on these. Gee willikers. All right. This M, we're going to do a little bit of shifting with, because it's pretty out of bounds. Same with the N. Not as much with the N, though. I feel like the N is that way a little bit. And that even that up a little bit. Going over the baseline a little bit over there. Oh, a little bit. a little bit. And our P, I'm actually going to crunch up a bit there, because I feel like it would have been a little too thin had I gone the other way. I'm going to use this R for my Q. Erase that. And that is going to be the dip of our Q. I'm going to rotate it a little bit because I want it underneath. I want it to fall a little underneath the baseline and a little to the left, but not centered, not centered. I don't know what looks better. I feel like actually I still want it below the baseline, but that was a little too... I think that looks good. A little too, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Our R. And look how these kind of like fit in together too with their waviness. It's very, very fun. I kind of like the T being very tall like this. I think I may leave it, but we are going to bring the baseline up, but we're just going to keep that cap height really high like that, way over like there. Same with the U. It's got to drop a little below, and I'm going to line it up with that one. So that one's a little over, but it won't matter. It'll still dip under the U, or still dip under the T. Sorry, my phone threw me off. It's so mean. I'm going to squeeze this in a little bit. Not because I feel like it needs to be thinner, but I feel like the sides just have a little bit too much thickness. And I dropped the bottom because that's one of our triangle characters upside down. This W is facing the same issues that the M had, where it's just a little too wavy. And Y is going to do the same thing that our U did, where one side is going to be high. We almost forgot the X. Alright, so to make our X, we're going to cut there. And then I'm going to take the K. And then we're going to try and make a second alphabet out of that. Because look at all those leftover characters. I mean, we might as well do 2 alphabets. That gives us alternates. We went through this really fast because we had a lot that we could use. And, whoa. Hitting crazy buttons over here in Illustrator. Alright, so I actually want these to be a little higher. The midpoint and the Y is good, but for the X, I just want it a little bit. A little bit more there. I'm going to group that together and I'm going to rotate it just a little bit. This X is going to go above the baseline just like the Y. I might... Does it make more sense to go this way? I wonder. Like that. And then this would tuck in a little bit. I feel like that looks less like the Y. Makes a bit of a stronger case for the X. Ah, this messy Z ligature. So, alright. Sorry. That's my phone, not yours. All right, so that takes us through our first rendition of the alphabet. Typically when I do a first rendition of the alphabet, I'll make it the uppercase, but I like to use it as the lowercase, mainly because I feel like most people type with their lowercase on, and if I'm doing like 31 Days of Horror fonts or whatever, making title cards, typically when I put out the initial set, there's only one set. So that's kind of what people expect the font to look like, and the majority of those letters are going to be the lowercase letters. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So that took us about 17 minutes because we had so much to go with. So now let's look at the second half and see what we have to make another alphabet. All right, so look at all these A's we still have to choose from. I like this ZAA and the CAA, but I'm going to pull all our ligatures kind of aside here. I'm going to group this LI. A lot of these ligatures are actually going to get used. PO, TH. And all right, the fact that Paul Newman gets a little crop makes me wonder if like they didn't space it out right, but that actually doesn't make any sense based on that period in time, because they would have totally been paying way more attention to a lot of that than we probably even do now. So I'm gonna use that for my F. I'm going to make my G from this C. H, I. We have this second J. We already used this J in the first one. I don't know why I duplicated it. I thought I had another K, but I guess not. So we'll make our K from... Wow, that's a weird R. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I didn't like... No. Oh wait, there's a P. Oh no, that's... I used that one last time. All right, let's get into this. So A, this time we're going to let it pop over a little bit. I know when I did this, I didn't set up any of... I'm going to be so mad at past Nick when I get to the VWXYZ, because I'm going to be like, I didn't set myself up with anything for these. All right, so I tilted this over a little bit because these crossbars feel like they're better served kind of over. Like they feel, that feels right. There, I put a little bit of a serif by that base. I'm going to pull this down just a tiny bit. That's going to become our G. And we're going to make our G the same way that we did last time. So you'll see here, there's a couple noticeable differences. That needs to go over a little bit more. That is good there, but this one is going to come in. And something needs to connect them a little better right there. And we'll group that and go a little bit up on it. There's no such thing as an H, just kidding. Because this H is going to be identical to the last H, we're just going to flip it around. And reflect it this way. And then I'm going to take this part right here and duplicate it, cutting this off like that, and this is going to keep a little serif on it. We're going to cut that little piece off just like before. We're going to reflect this again and rotate it. So that's just going to add a little bit of variation to our H group. A little bit of variation from our other H that we used earlier. Look at all that fun. Just building it out one letter at a time. All right, so this I want to roll. Yes. First, I want to cut this opening off of the R. That should be a pretty interesting K. I want to rotate a little bit more, and I think I'm going to grab the top from the other K. I always got to make sure I duplicated it. Not that I'm bad at doing that, but I feel like I am, if that makes sense. Group that. So that part of our K is going to be identical, but the rest of it is not. Just pull it into the baseline. Same with the L. Just got to pull that into the baseline. There's no such thing as an M here for some reason. And we're just going to leave that blank for a minute. While we... Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'm going to go grab the M and the W from the other alphabet, and we're just going to rotate those to be the M and the W in the new alphabet. And that will help them. They're going to look pretty similar, I feel like. So this was the W. You can see it does not really feel like an M. This side I feel like needs to come in a little bit. So I'm going to duplicate it. And there. Just added a little bit more thickness to that side. And I think I'm going to take a little bit away from this base. Probably a little more from this base as well. This N is going to need to go back. Whoa, somebody on TV is yelling. The P came from the R. So a few things are going to happen with the P. This side's just going to come down just a little bit lower, just to fill in some of the negative space from removing the leg of the R. And then just going down a little bit, because also from, you know, from removing that, it would make sense to open up the hole a little bit more, round it off a little better, even though at the top it still has that cutoff, which is kind of interesting. The Q is going to dip like it does, and also is that my R? No, that's my R. All right. So cut that there like we do. This piece is just going to go like that. And just a slight rotate. That looks great. Whoops. Group. This R, perfect. It's kicking butt. It's got its leg way out. That S just got a little bit bigger. We do have this other T. We can make a V from this end. I don't know if that... I think that Z came from there last time. Alright, so first, let's separate this T. We're going to do the same thing, and I'm not holding shift, which would keep it. I'm just stretching it, but not 100%. Second time I held shift, and I'm just going to go probably about that much. Holding shift here just to drop it a little bit that way. That looks good. Our V is actually going to be our N, but to throw you all for the loop, I'm going to do it that way and rotate it. Now remember last time on the V, it was a little too wide and I had to push it in to make it narrow. Like, look at this one, it's a matchstick. So I'm going to duplicate this and actually going to copy and paste it in the front. So there's actually 2 duplicates on top of this right now. One of them there. And one of them there. Group. And that helps it look a little bit better. Now this came from the M, if you remember, which means same that we just did with the W that we turned into an M. We need to we just need to slim down the bottoms because this font gets wider at the top. And that's the rule that we're following. I'm also going to rotate this a little bit and then swing it over. I also feel like I want to reflect this because I want the right side to be the kind that's going over the cap height slightly. We're going to make our Z the, kind of traditional Remedy 667 way of taking the V and moving it up. And using the T. I'm going to make that one shape. I'm going to clench my fist and try and remember the words that I'm trying to say. I feel like that made a pretty good Y. I had to redraw the top here just because it's it gets a little bunched. Just a little less. Because that's identical, exact same Z, I'm just going to copy this Z and rotate it. Which is a pretty cheap trick. And I'm going to take my X and I'm just going to put a new leg on the lower right, I think. So the X is going to be very similar. I'm actually going to cut it right there and bring this down. So now nothing's sticking above the base height. Oh. E. So we just made a few modifications to the X to make it work. Group, I need to rotate that like 1. Perfect. And that sits low, kind of like the last Y did. So there you go. Now we have 2 fun mid-century alphabets, our uppercase and our lowercase complete. 35 minutes. And that, again, is because we had so much to go on. So, you know what? Before we go ahead and wrap this video up, I'm going to go ahead and put together our number set. And as you can see, I'm doing some of that using letters that we didn't really use yet. There was only that one H. That's so bad. That's so bad. What would make a better 3? Did I use the same B each time? All right, I think that's all we need to make the alphabet. Or to make the number bet. 3, 4. There's a 5, 6, 7, 9, and 8. All right, let's make some numbers real quick. So we always like to tighten the center of our O and give it a little bit more girth, for lack of a better word. Width, I think, is the actual there. That one looks great. The 2 we're gonna want to reflect. You know what? I'm always looking to see foolishness. Sorry to get all cryptic. So I'm always looking around. I have my laptop, and then my screen is actually like above there. But when my laptop's open, because I have to use it for the video, but it blocks part of my screen, so I always got to go like this. But I can look. I should be looking at the recording screen, which I try not to look at because it's distracting. But I bet I can look at that for reference of, instead of looking around, I'll just look at the recording screen and be like, oh yeah, I am in the right space. Hopefully that makes sense. Feel like that. Needs to, yes, that is what it needed to do. And also needs to add a little bit more thickness to the right. That looks great. Somehow this 4H situation, whoops. I want it to be a little bit thinner than the actual H. But as you can see, we get some weirdness. Very easy to fix. Just draw over it. And I want that to stick out a little as well. 5. That 5 looks pretty good. So six. This is going way smoother than I thought it would have. 8s are always a little tricky. I still haven't found the best way. Let me rephrase that. I don't think that I found the best way to make 8s yet that I like. Like, I don't think there's anything super wrong with how I make 8s. You know, this is a little bunched, so just needs fixed. This is a little repetitive, and I also want it to go in a little bit more. Bunched up here. Group. Like, I don't know. I'm just not totally... Oh, I can't read what it says on the little screen. I think that was reflect. Same thing. I'm gonna go in. Gonna go actually just a little up there. And with the 9s, I feel like that's a good spot. All right. So that's it. That gives us a pretty good double alphabet and a little bit of lettering in a mid-century style that we got from a poster with 4 names on it. Gave us all this. And yeah, that was pretty fun. Join us next week for Horror Font Friday. I'll see you next Friday. This is Nick from Remedy667.com. You're doing great. I hope your day is awesome.